Boom! What's up, guys? It's your boy Nolan Hawkeye Anthony here, and I hope you guys are having a fantastic week wherever you may be and however you may be listening. I have a lot of videos that I have on the docket for you guys, especially with Iowa Hawkeye content. And the recruiting videos have been a smashing success, getting a lot, virtually retweets from every Iowa Hawkeye commit. But today, I wanted to give you guys a quick video on the 5 most important Iowa Hawkeyes going into the 2021-22 season. But before I do that, I want to mention going to 247hawkeye.com, and I urge you and ask you to subscribe to this channel. It really helps when you do that. We've only been going at this for about a month, and we already almost have 70 subscribers. I know that's child's play compared to other videos, but it adds up over time. If we can get to 70 after this video, that would be fantastic. Also, you guys can find where to find me on social media, Twitter, Facebook, the whole 9 yards in the description box. So go ahead and go there. Last but not least, the NHA podcast debuts every Wednesday, and you guys can find it on the YouTube channel. So go and check that out. Now, the first thing I want to say before we get into all of the 5 individuals, and if they have the season that I will say they need to have, Iowa will be ultra successful, is that some of the guys are not, I don't think they are common individuals to think about when it comes to the University of Iowa's success. And that's okay. All of our lists are different. I really hope that you guys comment and let me know what your guys' top 5 is and what type of stats they need to have. I live all the way in California, so when you guys comment, it's awesome. It's a way for me to keep in contact with you guys, and then just hit that like button. But the first player that we're going to start with, and honestly, this one the first one can be flip-flopped because some people place the quarterback as the #1 position, regardless of the system or the school or anything like that. Not this guy. Although I think the quarterback is a very, very important position. I do. For me, especially with the University of Iowa, it's not the most important to them. If you go back and you look at, especially under Kirk Ferentz, the seasons that have been spectacular. Let's go back to 2000. Well, screw it. Let's just look back at this past season where Iowa went 6-2, and 2015, or even add in Nate Stanley's season when Iowa won 10 games. So 2015, the 10-win season in 2019, and the 6 consecutive win streak in 2021. Iowa ran the football down people's throats, just ran it down. And when it comes to Iowa football, that, my friends, is the most important. And if I could, I would put the entire running back group, but we're not doing position groups. We're doing players. So the #1 guy on this list, you already see it, Tyler Goodson. And I got to tell you guys, I really enjoy this dude's game, everything he's about. His family is ultra supportive. He's a hard worker. He has a great YouTube channel. And I just think that all of that is good stuff. It's really, really good stuff. And, we're going to take a look at his stats here. And in my eyes, it is no question he is the most important Hawkeye going into this season. Now, what type of season does Tyler Goodson need to have in order for Iowa to have the type of season that I think that they are capable of? I mean, if you've listened to me for a while, you know that I have said that the past 3 or 4 Iowa teams have been some of the most talented Iowa teams under Kirk Ferentz, just because of the uptick in recruiting success. Therefore, the depth has been that much better. And it's no different. So this Iowa team, in my eyes, is really capable of a ton. I don't see a position group that I am concerned about for this Iowa team. Now, that's a whole nother topic for another day. But where it starts is with Tyler Goodson. And when we look at what this dude has done last season in a condensed campaign, which had Michigan decided to pull up their big boy pants and actually play. Same thing with Missouri, the all-powerful SEC. Iowa, I think he would have gotten to 1,000 yards, but because that did not happen, he came a little bit shy and ended. Came up with 762. I thought he had 600. That was the year before. 762 yards, as you guys can see right here. And he had 7 TDs. Now, the thing that makes Tyler Goodson an amazing player for Iowa, and by the way, just a side note, it is very shocking to me that Iowa has not. Derek Foster did an excellent job recruiting the running back position, but overall, Iowa has had very much ups and downs. When you look at a school like Wisconsin, where it's kind of just been like this, when Iowa runs the football a ton. So, but Tyler Goodson was a very highly recruited guy, a dude that many folks thought was under-recruited, undervalued, considering the offer sheet that this guy had. And for me, if Tyler Goodson can have at least 1,000 yards rushing on the ground and average about 5 yards a carry, and add anywhere between 300, let's just start with 300 yards receiving, I'll be a happy man. Iowa will, at the very least, win 9 games, in my opinion, if those stats end up occurring for our guy, T. Good. And to be honest, guys, I fully expect him to have the season that I just laid out. I expect him. He is one of the top 3 running backs in the Big Ten, if not top 2. I'm just kind of playing it safe with the top 3. And if that happens, Iowa will be more than in good shape. And I fully expect him to have this type of season. You look at the work that this guy has put in the offseason, which we have been able to see. And for me, I just fully expect this guy to have a 1,000-yard campaign at the very least. Okay, so Tyler Goodson checks in at number 1 for the Iowa Hawkeyes. And at number 2, folks, we got this 6'5", 230-pound junior out of San Rafael, California, about an hour or 2 away from where I live, Spencer Petras. And, to be honest, I really thought about going with him or going with a wide receiver or something like that. But I decided to go with the quarterback position because, I'm going to tell you guys my thinking here. He didn't have the most spectacular season last year, and Iowa still almost made it to the Big Ten championship. And my point there is that at Iowa, it is not absolutely crucial for a quarterback to be the top guy in the conference in order to have that type of season. Matter of fact, we look at Nate Stanley. The seasons that he was statistically better, Iowa won fewer games. The season that they won 10 games was probably his worst statistical season, somewhat. And, CJ Beathard, that guy was not uber statistically relevant, but he was a leader and just really carried that team. So the point is that with Iowa, I think Iowa fans tend to put too much emphasis on the quarterback. When we've seen time and time again, it matters in certain, because you can easily show me, well, what about Brad Banks? What about Drew Tate? What, what about this guy that, Ricky Stanzi, when he got better? And specifically with Ricky Stanzi, I could say, well, what about the running back group for that team? But anyways, you can point to sometimes where the quarterback with Kirk Ferentz had solid campaigns and Iowa did just fine, which brings me to my next point, which is all a quarterback at Iowa needs to do is just have a solid campaign. It doesn't need to be one of the best ever or anything like that. It just needs to be solid. And for me, if Spencer Petras can have about 20 touchdown passes, maybe about 17 or 18, I would be okay with, as long as the running game was spectacular and he kept the INTs down. But overall, I would say I'm going to need 20 TD passes out of Spencer in order to soothe my thinking about this team and how successful they can be, because at the end of the day, this Iowa team is playing a brutal schedule, and there will be times where Spencer, where that run game is just blocked, and Spencer is going to have to get it done in the air. Now, you could make an argument to your boy here. Well, can't you, in that circumstance, isn't maybe Tyrone Tracy more important? Fair enough. I almost put him here as opposed to Spencer, and he might still be on my list. But again, I decided to go with the quarterback just because of the fact that he has he touches the football on every snap on the offensive side. And it's weird that the quarterback position at Iowa is strange, because you look at like CJ Beathard in the 2015 campaign, and he only had 1,200 yards passing. And last year in a condensed season, Spencer Petras had 1,500 yards. So what I'm going to go with 2,100 yards in a full season. If not 2,000, let's just go with 2,000. If Spencer can have 2,000 yards passing, 20 touchdown passes, Iowa will be golden, y'all. I feel very strongly about that. So Spencer Petras, number 2, most important Iowa Hawkeye. And at number 3, guys, I'm going Caleb Shudak, the Shudak. And the reason is simple. Not only does kicking matter pretty much everywhere, but especially at Iowa, you really see, and last year was an anomaly when Iowa won so many games by double digits. That does not happen very often, but having a guy that is cold as ice at the kicker, like Keith Duncan, is huge. And if Caleb Shudak can be 80% of what Keith Duncan was able to do, Iowa will be golden. And, really all I'm looking for is a guy that can hit 85 or excuse me, 80, about 85 to 90% of extra points. So nearly all of them. So if he kicks 20 extra points, I'm hoping that he nets 18, somewhere around there. 25, he nets 23, 24, maybe 22. You need consistency there. When it comes to field goals, about 80%. If he kicks 20 field goals and he can be 16, 17 out of 20, especially if some of those are from greater distance, great. That is excellent. Now, you could say, well, Nolan, it's an important spot, but because he is a relatively new kicker, and in general, there are more important players / positions in football, he shouldn't be there. I got to disagree, guys. The kicker scores most of the points for the football team. It really, really matters. And, it especially matters for a team like Iowa when you have confidence in your kicker, special teams in general. But when you have confidence in your kicker, it kind of just gives you an extra confidence or swagger that teams with poor kickers do not have. They do not have the confidence that a team with a strong kicker has, because it is huge to be able as a quarterback to know, okay, if I get it to the 40-yard line and we're down 2 with 2 minutes left, we're good. We're going to win this dang football game. That is massive, just confidence booster in general for a team. And like I said, they are a majority of the points. Now, an interesting little tidbit here. I believe Keith Duncan could have stayed for one more season with the Koof situation, giving players an extra year of eligibility. At the very least, perhaps Caleb Shudak, I also believe, has another year that he can play after this one, which is great. And last but not least, guys, at Iowa, kicking is huge. There are some games that end up being 13-10. And the difference maker was a team with a good kicker and a team that did not. So, and I think that perfectly exemplifies just how important the kicking position is for Iowa and Big Ten teams in general, because there are games where it is brutal to score, but the team with the better kicker wins that game. So your entire team, besides the kicker, can be better, but because that kicker could not net it home, you don't win. And I specifically think back to Iowa versus Nebraska and Iowa versus Wisconsin in 2015. So number 3, we got Caleb Shudak. At number 4, guys, I got Zach VanValkenburg, the former Division II star from Hillsdale College, now Iowa Hawkeye. Now, before I go into Zach, there likely is going to be one guy that is off this list that I already know some Iowa fans are going to be like, how could he not be on it? And I will explain that at the end. For this top 5 in particular, I didn't want to go all offense, even though I believe that defense is especially at Iowa is much more of a team unit than individual expertise. Therefore, a guy like Zach VanValkenburg going off does not matter as much on defense as it would on offense. But I wanted to put guys on this list defensively. And I also think that he is a very important piece. When Iowa has 20 plus sacks in a season, you can just pencil them in for one of the top 3 defenses in the Big Ten, top 10 in the entire country. And that is the only question mark, not by me, but by the media, because they need something to write about, is the defensive line. Me, I'm not worried about it. Zach showed last year he can be a premier pass rusher and stop the run, and I feel very good about that. And it is ultra important for a team like Iowa to have a guy line up on the strong side and on the defensive line and just shore it up. And if he can have 7 or more sacks after coming off a 3-sack season the year prior, I believe he also had 10 plus tackles for loss. But in 2021, 2022, if Zach can have 7 or more sacks, Iowa will be golden. I am going to pull up here what he was able to do last year, just for reference. This dude had 8 tackles for loss, which, next season, if he can have about the same, maybe 10, that would be perfection. But, how can you not choose this guy? I mean, he came back when I think he would have had a real shot of maybe not being drafted, but certainly, actually, you know what? I think he would have had a shot at being drafted had he decided to leave after last year in the back end, 5, 6, 7 range. depending on his testing numbers. But he chose to come back. He loves being an Iowa Hawkeye. And I think he is one of the 5 most important Iowa Hawkeyes going into this 21-22 campaign. And at number 5, we got Jack Campbell. And I am so excited for this upcoming season for this dude. I think he will prove himself to be one of the top, not only linebackers in the Big Ten, in the country. This dude checks in at 6'5". I bet he runs about a 4.6 40. The coaches rave about his athletic prowess. Last year, he was poised for a massive season, but had some, I think he had the mono. But this guy, linebackers kind of come and go at Iowa, and they have a ton of success at that position. There's not really a difference here. And yes, there are guys like Seth Benson who you could argue are just as important. But I think in my eyes, not only is he a top 7 player in general for Iowa, I just feel that his impact is top 5 caliber and is one of the top 5 most important guys to have a monster season for Iowa to get to where they want to go. And that's a huge part of this, is which guys need to have a certain season for Iowa to be where they need to be. And this guy raves it. For me, I think he is going to show he's one of the best linebackers in the Big Ten and the entire country. And I am very excited to see the type of improvement that this guy will make going into next season. And he'll be very important early on, guys. With Iowa playing Indiana and Iowa State, you need a linebacker who sure tackles and just gets after it and brings energy to your team. All right, guys, that's about it. I am going to tell you guys who I had as my honorable mention, who I almost chose. And the one guy right off the bat that I know a lot of Iowa Hawkeye fans are going to be like, how is he not one of the top 5 most important? And that is center Tyler Linderbaum. And here's the deal, guys. He is massively important for Iowa. Okay, he is. But I do see he would probably be 6 or 7 for me. I do see 5 guys more important to Iowa's success than him. And I'll tell you why. Him dominating at his position has less of an overall effect. When Tyler Linderbaum dominates at the center position, it will open up some holes, no doubt. But if the offensive line fails elsewhere, it's kind of all moot. The offensive line doesn't really go as one guy goes. It goes as the entire line goes. And if this was a position ranking of the most important, O-line would probably be 2nd or 1st. That's how important it is. And yes, Tyler Linderbaum is the most talented player Iowa has. And like I said, he's top 7. I just don't have, as most important, I just don't have him as top 5 for the reason I just gave. I don't think that him dominating has as much of an effect on the outcome for the Iowa Hawkeyes as the other 5 guys I named. The last guy that I almost chose, and well, let's go 2 more. I almost went with another defender, and I probably would have chosen a defensive back because we've seen with Desmond King, Josh Jackson, how important takeaways are. But it was kind of hard because this, and we will see, but unlike previous years, this secondary is good all around. It's very good all around. Whereas other secondaries had a guy like Desmond King who was elite and kind of made up for average, if not slightly above average, elsewhere on the secondary for Iowa. So I didn't really feel comfortable choosing one guy. If I would, it would probably be Matt Hankins or Riley Moss. And I probably would have went with Riley Moss. I think that dude is going to have a fantastic season. He's poised. And the last guy I almost chose was Tyrone Tracy, who is very important to this Iowa team, both in the run game and the pass game. You know, he'll be used in sweeps. I think I wouldn't be shocked if Iowa puts him back for some kick returns and some punt returns. Although I do think that job is probably going to be Charlie Jones and, you know, someone else that it can focus solely on that position, like a Keegan Johnson or something like that, or Charlie Jones at both spots. But he is very, very important. But how I envision the wide receiver group going is kind of just solid success like we've been seeing from everyone. You know, with Amir Smith-Marset and Brandon Smith, we never saw one guy have 1,000 yards and the other guy, you know, have 300. We saw both guys have about 500 to 700 yards, both solid, not elite, but solid. And I think Tyrone Tracy might be able to get just above that, maybe 800 yards receiving, 900. But I do see both him and Nico and Charlie, and maybe Desmond Hudson, Keegan Johnson, all of them being a strong team together, not really one guy dominating by himself and taking Iowa to the promised land by himself. That's not to mean that he won't have a solid campaign. I fully expect him to have one, but not top 5 for this Iowa team. I'll put it to you guys this way. If Tyrone Tracy has below 700 yards, it won't be the end of the world for Iowa. Because Nico Reganey, aka Nico Raggiani, could pick up the slack and have 500 yards himself, and then you could have 300 from Sam Laporta, 300 from Charlie Jones, and then Sam Laporta has 500. And by the way, Sam Laporta was also another guy I almost chose, but I did not see him as top 5 most important. Although I have him as well as Jack Campbell being the 2 biggest risers in this upcoming season. I fully expect Sam Laporta to be one of the top 2 Big Ten tight ends coming up. But that is why, my friends, I did not choose Tyrone Tracy, but the honorable mention would more than certainly be Tyler Linderbaum, Tyrone Tracy, and Riley Moss / Sam Laporta. So 4 guys. Sue me. 4 guys. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys consider hitting that subscribe button. It really means a lot when you do that. I want to get to 70. Well, to be honest, I want to get to 100 by the time the season starts. It really helps when you do that. But if you don't feel like I've earned that from you, like, share, comment. I live all the way in California, so it helps me a lot, and I enjoy talking with you guys, writing, typing things out to you guys, and just chatting. It really means a lot. Be sure to go to 247hawkeye.com and watch for the NHA podcast every Wednesday. The link will be in the description. And last but not least, DBAT, don't be a pussy, Willow, and facts or feelings, because your feelings don't matter. Love y'all. Go Hawks.